So in my mid-20s, I dove headfirst into learning everything I could about decking. And at that point, I was employed by Trex, and I dug footings, carried 2x8s, 2x10s, spent some time at the plant, learned everything I could, up, down, left, right, about composite decking. Being in your mid-20s and being a woman in building products is no easy task, right? So how do you create credibility for yourself? Mm-hmm. And I really did that through my experience and being able to talk the language of the contractor and being able to relate to their experiences. So I've been really in the decking world for 23 years, if you will. And
yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah. Wow.
And I've gone through all the generational changes. I mean, what the product is today does not look like what it did at all 23 years ago.
Oh, I remember with Trex when it first came out. It was just this basic board. There's no definition to it. It was just looks like a composite material. Now it looks like wood. It's amazing what panels look like.
Yeah, I mean, today I would consider everything, Jim, being high performance. I mean, the products have become high performing products, right? In their infancy, they were meant to not rot, splinter, decay. It was a big conversion from wood. And, at that point, I can tell you that most contractors, similar to that of pressure treated wood, were laying the boards down tight, thinking it would shrink, when at that point the boards would expand. And so there were a lot of complications early on.
Right. Well, I can imagine. So you've seen it all in decking. It sounds like
I have seen it all.
The
generational change from composite really into PVC, into cap composite, and then the high performance of products today. So I've lived through those generational changes, and I hate to say pains, but there were some obviously difficult times out there. The expectation of really what the product could do and what it was meant to do. Opinions were not marrying up early on.
Okay. I bet you ran into a lot of that, but now it's standard. I don't think anybody puts any wood plank down on their decks anymore. No, I mean everything is a composite material. So
it is, but there's still I ask this question jokingly when I do trainings, and now I'm letting my secret out, but I say, when I'm doing trainings, about our lines of moisture shield decking, I say, who is our number one competitor? And most people will name other composite decking companies, but it still remains to be wood.
Okay.
That's
really?
still,
yeah, really?
It's still 50% of the market.
Well, I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Composites continue to grow, but like here in New Jersey in the Northeast, we are a very, very mature market.
Okay.
Right. We go to other markets. I'm traveling around the country, and there's still a lot of treated lumber going down.
Really? Probably a lot of cedar too, I would imagine too. Cedar.
Yeah, and then there are other types of treated lumber that have come to the market, right? So there's even been advancements in that platform.
Sure.
Wow. So the decking industry is not like it hasn't been out as many other building products have been for a long time, hundreds of years, right? It kind of came out of the woodwork, especially during the times of COVID, where people were like, everybody needed a deck, right? Everybody needed that outdoor living space.
Right. Yeah, in fact, I was going to ask one of the questions, so it's a good segue to get into it. So what's changed in the past 1 to 3 years within the decking industry?
So that's a great question, Jim. And I gave that some thought when you gave me my homework assignment, and I said, what have I seen shift? What have I seen change? So most recently, my role has changed. I was the regional sales director, and now I'm in charge of national contractor development across the country, which makes sense for my wheelhouse and my experience. But we continue to see, manufacturers shift in changes of roles, and, people that used to be regional managers are now national account managers. And so we see some of that shifting happening. But more importantly, I was giving it some thought, and I think there are a couple of really unique changes that I've seen over the last couple of years. So number one, the contractor, the deck builder is really, he's capitalizing on being in that backyard and really expanding upon just the deck, right? So now we're seeing more of the guys that are using decking, that are using pavers, that are doing any type of, outdoor kitchen, if you will, sometimes even the pool. So they really have been able to take advantage of being in that backyard and really expanding their portfolio width-wise. So that's been a big shift, right? And I don't know if it's been really my lack of exposure being so one-dimensional, focused on decking, or it's truly a trend in the market. But I think that people are envisioning their outdoor living space a lot more extensively than it just being a deck, if you will.
Sure.
You
There's a
know,
lot of outside products out there, a lot of paving stones, a lot of things like that. I'm sure people are looking at this. A lot of stuff out there now, and there was 20 years ago. That's for sure.
And the nice thing about my role is that since I work for Oldcastle, we have, Belgard pavers, we have the PebbleTech for the pools, we have, the Sacrete for the concrete, we have the Moisture Shield decking. So we really touch upon all those different products out in the backyard living space. So it really, it's a good opportunity for us. And then thinking about, from the retail side of the business and, what I see when I travel to lumber yards, I used to see a lot more reps out there. I don't see as many reps as I used to. I feel like after COVID, I don't know if everybody thought that, maybe it's easier to send emails rather than to have those face-to-face touches. But I've always been the kind of person that needs to be in front of the customer.
Sure. I agree with that. It's funny. It's not a day that goes by in my business, in the recruiting world, that a candidate doesn't ask me, is this a virtual position? So, yeah, it's you work out of your house, but you're on the road every day. You talk to the customers. It is a sales position. You need to be out. Well, I really hope you do it from in the house. I go, you can't do it from in your house.
Right.
You have to be in front of the customer. Well, it's not for me. It's amazing the shift that since COVID. It's absolutely
100%. I mean, Jim, I used to see reps on a regular. I don't see really hardly any. It's the strangest thing. I mean, I have not. My go-to-market strategy of being out in front of the customer has not shifted, right? I mean, this is a face-to-face business where you need to shake hands, you need to see people. People buy from people, and if you're not out there in front of the customer, this is a very challenging business to do virtually, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I sold, I don't know if you know my background, I sold roofing. I used to work on the roofing side of the business. So I sold mostly one-step accounts. And you need to be out there because if I'm not there, my competition's there. Right. And and it's a relationship industry. And it's all about relationships. And the contractors, like you said, are going to buy from who they like and who they trust and who can help them with their business. If you're not in front of them, that's not going to happen.
Exactly. And, you bring up an interesting point, Jim, about the one-step, the ABCs, the Lansings of the world. And I have seen a shift in them expanding their portfolios, getting and understanding the opportunities that exist out there.
Okay.
So I definitely have seen a shift in that where they're saying, hey, we're more building products than just roofing and siding.
Okay. You see them are they buying direct? Are they two-stepping it through a prime source or whoever it might be carrying it?
Yeah. So anybody that's a retail location has to buy through two-step through our distributors.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Lansing, the ABCs of the world, Beacon, they would need to buy through local distribution.
Okay. Gotcha.
But I definitely see that they're being more attentive to looking at the decking needs and not just saying, hey, we're focused on roofing and siding. They're saying, hey, there's more opportunities out here.
And it sure is. And that's exactly what they're saying. Because there's definitely more opportunities out there.
Exactly. Sure. But I have seen a shift in that as well. And then there's been a little bit of a shift even on the retail side. Some of the businesses are really limited in the amount of people they have working there because they can't find additional help. Right. So you have one guy that's doing three jobs really. Right. And he's maxed out because getting people to show up to work is not as easy as it used to be.
No, it's not. It's definitely not.
And I don't know where all these other people are or what they're doing, Jim, but, I mean, I feel bad for some of these retailers. He's like, I'll ask them, did you put together our display? No, I just can't get to it. Right. And he's maxed out. And, the one thing that I would share with you is, the things that separate me is, okay, so you're busy and you can't get to the display. So, give me the display and I'm going to do it for you.
and that's what makes you successful. Going that little extra mile.
Taking the
Yeah,
initiative, right?
taking the initiative. It's funny when I talk to candidates. What's my day look like? And and I say, how do I work? And I use someone how I did it. I said on Friday afternoon, I said I'd get off the. I lived on Long Island. I covered the Long Island territory, so you know what traffic's like because you
I
deal with
do.
it too. You deal with it too, and so I'd be off the road by 4 o'clock, or try to get off by 4 o'clock and work to 6. But I would say, listen, I'm passing by at ABC or at that time was Allied, and I'm gonna pull in, even if it's
Right.
4 o'clock. I'm still pulling in. That's the difference. You need to. You always need to make that little effort. That's what makes the relationships really stand out.
Exactly. And that's what separates us from the pack, right? Taking that
Yeah,
extra initiative. You know, I mean, when people see me, they know I mean business, right? They
sure,
know, like, this is a person that's going to get done.
absolutely. I can see that, and then that's why you're successful doing what you're doing. So your job has changed, though. You said so. You used to be more on the regional manager side, and now you're doing.
Correct.
And so now you're working directly just with contractor development. Are you doing that nationwide?
I am. I am.
Okay,
Last week I was out in Tennessee. Next week I travel to California. When I'm home base here in New Jersey, then I'm calling on local contractors and driving the demand out here. So, you know, wherever I need to be is where I need to be, and I will
good.
continue to, create awareness and create success around, what I'm looking to accomplish. So,
How do you like that role versus the role you're in now versus the roles that you had in the past?
so I've had a plethora of roles, and the thing that is interesting about my new role is, so I've had about 4 roles working for Moisture Shield. Um, when they hire me, we need your decking knowledge, but we're not exactly sure what you're going to do for us. And I said, oh, that sounds exciting. I like that. Um, but what I've learned, Jim, over time is this tapestry of knowledge that I have across many platforms of Moisture Shield has made me more valuable as an employee.
Sure.
And so to say that I do or don't like what I'm doing now compared to what I was doing prior, again, I like learning all facets of the business, right? So this was a creation of a position based on my strengths, right? This wasn't one that existed prior to me taking on this role. Um, I liked being a regional director, but I also like this new national role because what it allows me to do is it allows me to share experience and success stories across the country, right? So it's doing a best practice in the Northeast, and I can help the guy in the Midwest with that type of practice and maybe not directly share the experience, but carve it out. So helping him become more successful.
Hmm.
That's what I really like about this.
Sure. And so you make him become successful. In turn, you're making yourself become successful. So
Correct,
you
correct.
buy more from you.
By sharing those experiences that I have, because every market is the same and yet different, right?
Right.
It's kind of a confusing statement, but it really,
Oh, but
you
it's 100% accurate. It's 100% accurate. It is different. It's amazing. I mean, my world's again the roofing world, but I know roofing. Different contractors buy different roofing manufacturers in different parts of the country,
right.
and that's exactly it. So
But
it's got
their
to be something.
go-to-strategy is somewhat. You can share what that go-to-market strategy is without letting the cat out of the bag by saying, "Hey, have you looked at this aspect of the business?"
Right. Right. So no, it's a very the whole building materials industry is very very interesting the way it's broken out and how people have different buying habits in certain places. It's pretty very interesting. If you
It
don't
is.
work in it, you don't realize, but it truly is.
It
Uh,
is. It is.
so, what's any challenges post COVID that you've had to work on, deal with, or I mean, obviously you're not having people in you, but any challenges you're dealing with through your distribution that you since post COVID, or anything, anything, material, as far as you're getting material, you got shortages.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that anything has been a challenge because I like to work in the solution, right?
Okay,
challenge and I'm going to try harder.
Sure, sure.
So I'm one of those people that, you know, I'm not going to focus on the challenge itself. I'm just going to work in the solution. So, you know, we continue to mature as a business, right? Moisture Shield being bought by Oldcastle back in 2017 really gave us the legs that we needed to move forward.
Mhm.
So even though we've been around for 32 years, we came to the table with a much broader based message, I think, after the acquisition from Oldcastle, giving us what we needed to get our name out there and promote some of our products. But, you know, any challenges, I would just say, you know, some people might know Moisture Shield being the older company out of Arkansas, and we've done a lot to, you know, create more bandwidth within our lines, you know, the Barrett acquisition. So more to talk about with our product lines. And so the biggest challenge is really getting people to give us a few minutes. And usually if they can open the door, we can give them some great content that will be exciting enough for them to say, yeah, hey, this is something I want to take a look at.
Great. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Any goals within the next few years coming up for yourself within the industry, within Moisture Shield, or where do you see and anything that you want to accomplish?
Well, interesting question, Jim, because I was just talking to my the VP of sales this morning, and I said, you know, eventually I would like to have more integration with all of our Oldcastle brands, you know, and maybe having some integration with an overarching program involving all that outdoor living space. So I would say in the next 1 to 3 years, I would like to see myself more of a national level, incorporating a lot more brand what I have today. That being said, you know, really for me, you know, to wrap my arms around what a goal looks like, you know, I'm out there fishing after the big deck dock builders, you know, making sure they're on my radar, making sure I'm building relationships with them.
Sure.
That's probably my most immediate goal is, and it's not always about selling products, Jim. It's about cultivating a relationship. You know, you do the right thing and the rest will come, in my opinion, right? So, you know, I had a meeting last week with somebody in Tennessee, and I said, hey, look, I'm coming out there. I want to get to know you and your business. It's not about me just off the cuff selling products, right? This is about me cultivating relationships with the big guys out there.
Right.
You know, so that's really my goal for the next year is what I would say is, you know, going after these, you know, top 10 guys in the country and cultivating that relationship, getting to know them.
That's great. I mean, so just like any other part of the industry, you have a lot of competition. So you've got Trex and you got AZEC and, you know, everybody else. You know, what makes you different? What makes you different? What makes Moisture Shield different? What makes a difference? Where do you see the difference out there?
Well, that's another great question, Jim. And so number one, we have the solid core difference, which is we're encapsulating all our wood particles. So we can go in the ground, on the ground, and underwater. Not many other manufacturers can do that. So that's the one thing from the Moisture Shield side that really separates us. But the thing, again, that excites me the most is that whole envelope of products under Oldcastle APG, right? Yeah. We are touching upon all those different products in the outdoor living space. Whereas, you know, some of the other manufacturers you mentioned, they don't have fire pits. Maybe they don't have outdoor kitchens. They don't have pavers. They don't have a pool surround, right? We have all those intertwined with each other. And we are the only one that really has that, touching upon all those different touch points in the backyard. So that's really what makes us different. When I'm out there talking to these contractors, I'm not just, yes, my focus is primarily Moisture Shield, but, you know, I'm saying, hey, you know, whose pavers are you using? Are you using Belgard? You know, if you're doing pools, are you using PebbleTech, right? So the conversation is a broader bandwidth than if I were just working for a sole manufacturer of decking.
Okay. Do they offer any special incentives to buy parts of the package, to buy other parts of it? Any warranties or anything like that? Or
so we all have our individual warranties, but I think as I progress in this role, those things are on the table for us to take a look at.
That makes that nice system makes a nice package, that's for sure.
Exactly, and that's I think my role will bring a lot of visibility to those opportunities that we'll need to explore as we roll into next year. So I know it's on everybody's radar for us to take a look at.
Yeah, listen, you've got the materials to be. You got the way to do it. You must take advantage of it. No doubt.
Exactly.
No doubt.
Exactly.
Well, finally, if there was any one piece of advice you could give to somebody new coming into this industry, or somebody in this industry who's is newer, what would it be?
Remain humble, remain teachable, and remain open. And I'll give you an example of that. Being a regional sales director, you would think that I'm not going to get my hands dirty. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to build a display. I'm not going to. So the lumberyard that I was thinking about before, with the lack of help and so forth. So the distributor sent in the boards, and the guy said, "Hey, I need to get these cut and hung up on the wall." And I said, and I was traveling with the territory manager at that point. I said, "You know what? We're going to go have the boards brought to the saw. We're going to cut them all, and we're going to hang them ourselves." And you know what? Like, for me, Jim, I'm not better than anybody else. I'm humble enough to say, look, because I'm a regional sales director, gives me no excuse to say I can't get my hands dirty, right? And I think people feel the need to say, hey, that's somebody else's job. That's not how I roll. That is not somebody else's job. You want it done, you take the initiative and you go do it yourself. And those are the things that have created success for me, that I would suggest, going above and beyond, like you were talking about, leaving Long Island, 4:00, making that last stop, making that little bit extra effort goes a long way, and so nobody's ever said to me, Lainie's not going to do what she says she's going to do, right? Because I do, and I go above and beyond, right? And so even if that means building a display and getting my hands dirty, right? That I remain humble and teachable even at whatever level. And that makes me more efficient as a leader, because I can lead by example then, right? Being a regional sales director was great because I had been in the field as a territory manager for many years myself, and said, hey, this is what it takes to be successful. So anybody new coming into the business, I would just say, go above and beyond, and don't wait for somebody else to take the reins. Take them yourself. Be a leader. That's what has helped me over time create this, credibility of mine. I mean, and I think everybody knows, like, I'm Jim, what you see is what you get. And maybe I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but they sure know that, like, I'm not going to pull any punches, right?
Right. They're gonna get out of you, what they say. It sounds like you're like, you and I are cut from the same cloth when it comes to that kind of stuff, because I never mind getting my hands dirty, and they knew that my distributors knew they can rely on me all the time. If I still talk to them, even in this role. They know that they can still rely on you, and that those relationships go a long, long way.
Exactly.
And like you said, just by cutting those boards, it goes people. They remember that. They're not going to forget that.
They know that, okay, well, if I need something, this person's going to go the extra step,
Right.
And another piece of advice is, don't be afraid to write handwritten notes, right? Like, I was with a big dock builder last week, and I know he enjoys water. So I got him a little tchotchke, which, if you don't know what that is, that's a little something from a store on the lake. And I sent that with a thank you note. And those are the things that I think people don't traditionally do in sales roles.
Sure. Yeah, I agree 100%. 100%. So,
but that gives me more credibility. Like, hey, this person listened. They cared enough to understand a little bit about me, to say, hey, they sent me something related to what I like, and then a nice handwritten thank you note. And those things, everybody wants to, and I don't mean to use a gross word, but vomit their product information without really listening.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so 100%. I always ask good questions, pause, hit the pause button, Listen, don't try to overtalk the customer.
Bring out the pain is what I usually tell people. You find the pain and you heal the pain. So listen to you, ask questions. They're going to tell you exactly what road you need to go down. There's no doubt
Exactly.
about it.
And it's important to hit the pause button and remember that, sometimes silence and moments of process is okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
People get very uncomfortable with uncomfortable silence sometimes.
Sure.
Right? Out of nervousness, we end up just talking.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Yes, and like you said, I had a boss once, even before I got into the building materials world, that he would ask questions and he would just shut his mouth, and by the end of the day, he'd tell you how many ceiling tiles were in the office, because he would wait until they answered and count the tiles while they were doing it. And it's so funny that you say that, because it's so true.
Yeah, and these are just best practices across the board, right?
Right.
I mean, people want to do business with people, but they need to be heard, right? They need to be acknowledged for who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think taking a step back and doing that on a personal level creates a better relationship.
Sure. Great. Anything else you like to add, or?
No. I mean, I just would say, I love what I do. I mean, people know that, I'm very passionate about decking, about railing. I enjoy the relationships that I've cultivated over time, over the last 2 decades, really.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen these guys and their children grow up, which is scary because that means I'm getting older.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them have gone off to college when they were toddlers, when we first, met. And so it's been scary how the time has gone so fast. But, no matter where I've worked, I think I've always been a steady Eddie. I mean, people know I am who I am, and try not to be defined by my position, right? But really want to do business with me as a person, and I'll continue to cultivate those relationships. And I enjoy working for Oldcastle APG, and I like the message that Moisture Shield sells out there, as far as some differentiating factors. I think we have a lot of room to grow, and I look forward to growing with us as a company.
That's great. Well, listen, I appreciate your time, appreciate your input, and I'm always here if you ever need anything.